And we're live.
Skip, you better watch what you say. Or I might have to do a LeBron and trade you at the deadline this year.
We'll see about
Good
that.
afternoon. What?
I said, we'll see about that.
Yeah, I know. I can't let go of you. I love you too much. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in onto the point with
Skip.
and the King. You guys go down there, click subscribe, click like. Thank you very much for watching. We're still waiting for our 400 subscriber to give away this Raptors toque. Just for any of you guys out there, we're going to pick you by random. You got to click subscribe. You got to leave a comment. You got to leave likes. You guys got to get at us. Yeah, exactly. Go down. That's what I told her. Today, we have the biggest Raptors fan south of the 52nd parallel across that border, going down south, Mr. Joel Stephens. Joel is a writer for the Raptors HQ. He is a big-time Raptors fan. And if you guys ain't heard about it, go check it out, man. Those are some great articles. Those very well said, very poignant. And you guys make sure, because I see you guys out there. You guys are hating. But Joel, how are you doing today, my man? And welcome to being on To The Point.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I'm doing great today. I've been looking forward to this all day. And I'm just ready to start talking some Raptors. There's a lot of stuff brewing. We're getting close to the deadline, and there's gonna be a lot to talk about today.
Well, you've been waiting for this for a little while now. So the reason why you are here is you concepted this. So you actually wanted to speak about this. So now I want to ask you, based on where the Raptors are at right now and the trade deadline looming, coming around the corner very shortly.
February 10th.
February 10th at 3 p.m., ladies and gentlemen. Skip and I will be here the day after or that day, and we will let you know what we think. We will recap before you. But you are here, so I wanted to know, because you have something here that like really struck a chord in my head, and I want to ask you, will the Raptors make a move? And who would they make a move for?
This is the big question that everyone wants to have answered. And you know what? It's tough to answer without a true identity for this team. And I wrote about this yesterday morning.
On Raptors HQ. Go check it out, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. The Raptors have an identity problem as far as the fans' perspective goes. Masai Ujiri, year after year, he comes in, he tells us what the team wants to do, what they plan to do, what they want to achieve. This year's felt a little different. It's felt a little smoke and mirrors. It's felt a little maybe confused almost. To answer your question, it's tough for me to say what they want to do, but I could offer you what I think they should do.
Oh, let's hear it.
They're sitting at 500 right now, about 2 weeks out from the trade deadline.
Yes.
These 2 weeks are going to be critical. If they go on a 5-game skid, then we're looking at a complete negating of everything I say here. But if we end up February 10th, 4, 5, 6 games over 500, then the trade that I had just pop into my head. I was reading some Celtics articles, popped into my head. We should get Horford on this team. Not only
Al Horford?
Oh.
Al Horford?
He's a tough pill to swallow, man. But, after all that stuff with TJ Ford, he visited him in the hospital. He didn't mean to hurt the man. But I know a lot of fans think of Al Horford and they think, just get him away from me. Just total polar opposites.
That's ancient history.
It is. It honestly
is.
It
that just tells you how freaking old Al Horford is.
Yeah, there you go.
TJ Ford's been out of the league, what, like eight years or something?
Yeah, but if the Raptors get him, it makes the team old. Please go on, Joel.
So the trade I had set up was the Raptors kill two birds with one stone.
Let's see that.
They
Okay.
get Al Horford and Kyle Anderson here for $37 million combined dollars. They're sending out roughly 35, 36, I believe, off the top of my head. I really wanted to get Jason Richardson in this deal, but he's going to Memphis along with Kem Birch. And the Boston Celtics are acquiring Goran Dragic, Tyus Jones, and our beloved Chris Boucher. And the reason I did it for the Celtics, that's $35 million off the books. That's what
No way, Boucher! Oh,
I know.
Keep going.
So we bring in Kyle Anderson, who's a $10 million expiring himself. He's a great bench captain. He's a great role player. He knows where he fits. Perfect kind of guy that Nick Nurse is looking for right now. Plus, he's got that freakish length. You know, he's got long, gangly arms. Not in a bad way. Memphis does it. Let me just wrap up real quick. Memphis does it. Josh Richardson is a vet. He's been in the playoffs. He can hit shots. He can defend the best. And Kem Birch, you know, I was looking at Memphis' roster. They need a backup center bad, and they need one who can play the pivot, who can set screens, have the ball at the elbow, and make the passes to the front.
So that's your proposed trade to make the Raptors better?
Make them better. Yeah.
Okay, Skip. Now I have to ask you. The Raptors need to get better going forward, or they could possibly recede, tank, and maybe build on the team. But based on the direction they're going, I got to ask you, which direction should they go, and what do they need to get to that point?
So
Again, to the point.
To the point, yeah. So recently it came out, I think there was a report that the Raptors are going to be quote unquote buyers at the deadline, which shouldn't really surprise anybody. The real question is about how much they're going to buy. What are you buying for, right? Are you buying for this year? Are you buying for next year? Are you just getting a little depth so you can be a frisky team this year, or are you really going for it this year? The Horford trade, I'm not going to get too deep into that. I think there's $14 million in that contract next year. You're going to have to buy him out. He's not that good. He's old.
I like him.
Like, that might be if you're a championship window team, maybe you do that trade. But I don't think that you do that trade to get to the 7th or 16th.
Okay.
I think there's a couple main ways that the Raptors can upgrade their bench, basically. And I think the most obvious trade is just Goran Dragic plus a piece for a bench piece who actually plays. So whoever that bench piece is, you could. So, for example, a simple example of this would be Goran Dragic, Malachi Flynn for Gary Harris. All right, you bring Gary Harris in. No one's excited that we get Gary Harris, but Malachi Flynn doesn't play. Goran Dragic doesn't play. You get one guard in here for an expiring contract. You can play off the bench, give you a 6th, 7th, 8th man off the bench. 6th, 7th, 8th man, I should say. And if Nick Nurse would play that guy, then you've won the deal, essentially. That's all it comes down to. You could make another case would be, another example of this type of trade would be Dragic.
Are you going to go with Jakob Poeltl?
Well, Jakob Poeltl is a little different because he's not. It's about contracts, right? So Dragic is a 19.
You said it, Skip. You said it a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, I would absolutely love to see Jakob Poeltl come back to the Raptors, but we'll get to that. I'm talking right now about the very basic trade of Dragic plus Flynn or Dragic plus a first-round pick. You could do Dragic plus Flynn for a Harrison Barnes. Bring in a three-point shooter, like something like that. Something like that, like very simple. And then you could do maybe something a little more interesting. I've heard a lot of talk about Mo Bamba. So one way that you could make that trade a little more spicy is if you can somehow get T. Ross and Mo Bamba on this team. You get that three-point shooter you're looking for. You get that big man you're looking for. But the thing is, like, to get a Mo Bamba, you're going to have to give up a little more than just Dragic and a first-rounder, I think. So I would probably throw Precious into that trade. I think we could get into that a little later, but things start to get a little more complicated there.
I
And
want to hear more about the Harrison Barnes deal too. That caught my ear. That caught my attention.
Yeah, so that's kind of your basic framework for that deal is just, Dragic for Barnes and some type of draft capital coming from the Raptors. But I was sitting back and I was thinking, okay, like, what if we went off the board here and made it a little more interesting? So
Okay.
Gary Trent Jr., he's 23 years old, right? It's exciting. He's a young player.
He just turned 23 last week, ladies and gentlemen.
But if you listen closely, they say Gary Trent Jr. is not one of the core four. They have not mentioned that he's untradeable. And there's a reason
You've said that.
I've said that, but even in the reports this week, it was Siakam, Barnes, OG, and Van Vliet. Those were the untradables. Trent was not on that list. Yep. And there's a simple reason for that. Wow. Because Trent is only under contract for this year and next year. And if you're not going to be spending that money to extend him big time, assuming he turns down the player option, if you're not going to be putting that money down to sign him long term, then there is an argument to be made. What if we can trade Trent for help now, help in the future, help that's maybe a couple years older, but is still prepared to, that is still on the same timeline, I should say. So my proposed trade then would be Gary Trent Jr., Goran Dragic, and Precious Achiuwa for Harrison Barnes, Richaun Holmes, and you got Mo Harkless in there just to make the money work. So essentially what you get with this trade is you get Trent for Barnes. They're both on 2-year deals, assuming Trent is going to turn down that player option. They're both here for 2 years to be 3-point shooters, to be fifth starters. Not a big trade-off one way or the other. I think the Kings would be more excited to get Trent because he's significantly younger, but he also comes with, I
was just going to point out, both Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes, 29 years old.
Yeah, well, I thought about doing this deal with Buddy Hield originally, but the problem with Buddy Hield is that third year of the contract starts to get into the territory of where you'd want to be spending money to extend a Van Vliet, where you want to have some money. So that's why I stuck to Harrison Barnes, because 2 years for 2 years.
Sacramento would definitely be interested in a replacement, I think, someone to maybe play under him or with him just to groom him into that prime player when he turns 27.
Who's that?
Okay,
Trent,
guys.
Sacramento.
Yeah. No, guys. Brian, I'm not done.
Okay, go, please.
So yeah, the deal is Gary Trent for Harrison Barnes. It's Goran Dragic for Mo Harkless. Those are 2 expiring crappy contracts. They both get bought out.
That's fine.
And then the keystone of the deal is Precious Achiuwa for Richaun Holmes. So again, we see the Raptors are getting older, but presumably getting a little bit better, a little bit bigger. And that's where this deal gets really interesting. I think if I was the Raptors, I would walk it back and I would say, what if we could hold back Precious Achiuwa and throw you a first rounder? Because if the Kings would be amenable to that, then you are adding an extra piece and we're adding more depth on the bench, which is kind of what this all comes down to in the first place. Because if you're just swapping Trent and Achiuwa for Holmes and Barnes, you're still stuck with the same problem of not having enough guys to come on off the bench. So that's where I think there'd be negotiating to be had, and I don't know necessarily that the Kings would be open to that, but maybe if you throw in a first and a Malachi Flynn, maybe that they get interested. I don't know, but I think there's something there with the Kings. Bottom line, I think there's something there with the Kings. The Kings are terrible. The Kings are always terrible. They're looking to rebuild. Maybe there's ways that we can get creative and find ways to make the Raptors better with Sacramento. Anyway, what do you guys think? Okay,
let me tell you guys what I gotta say about this. Okay, I like your proposed trades. I kind of like that. I kind of like the direction you guys are going, but none of you guys shouted out to me, and I'm not a Raptors fan, right? But I do love my city, and I do love our sporting teams. Until they get rid of the ass Adore, okay? But I do like what you guys are saying. Like Skip, you saying throwing in a first rounder. I think that's a great idea for a proposed trade because the Raptors, they do have a lot of younger players right now. What's the point in spending one of your assets to get another younger player to just delay your progression.
But here's the thing. Hang on.
Hold on. But also, neither of you guys have told me any players that can get the Raptors over the top. Basically, you guys are telling me about Danny Greens and Norman Powell's. Okay? That's what I'm hearing when I'm watching the Raptors. They're not anybody that's going to get them to the promised land. Okay?
Wait, you want Ben Simmons?
No. Are you kidding me? I want Kylie Jenner. Give me that baby, bro. Okay? No, for real. But what the Raptors do have right now, I think that core can grow. I think that team can grow, depending on Nick Nurse. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, but he's going to be on Murdoch Mysteries, CBC original. I don't know. You guys go check that out if you're Canadian. But he needs to play the bench players more to spread the floor. Like, look at Freddie's out. Scotty was out. Look at all the players that have been out because they've been lagging too much minutes. Now, you need what I would say to get the Raptors to the promised land and to get them where we all want them to be, even though we are all aware that they are retooling, not rebuilding, retooling their team. But to get them to that spot, they do need a marquee player, someone that might want to take some load management. So, guys, do you have a better trade to make the Raptors better in your mind? Joel.
Let me just preface it by saying today, Thursday, the 27th, Thursday the 27th, James Harden started popping up in rumors. I don't want James Harden.
We don't want him.
But
I don't want him.
That opens up, every time a big star like that is traded, it opens up the possibility of a 4-team trade. When's the last time a star was traded and there wasn't 4 teams involved, right?
Yeah, but who are you gonna get rid of? Nah, come on.
We could maneuver our deals under the radar in a blockbuster trade like this, and perhaps pick off a young player from, Team X or Team Y, or get that expiring from, Team Z. These are the opportunities that can crop up when you have these big marquee players on the market. Ben Simmons, James Harden, John Wall, Westbrook, list goes on. You have the opportunity to squeeze in and get into that party.
None of the above for the Raptors. Does not fit our culture.
I don't want any of those guys. And I understand you're not saying that we would be getting those guys, but we're not in a position to be going after marquee names. We're not in a position to call ourselves contenders who are one big piece away. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bring in pieces that will be good.
With Kawhi?
Yeah, but that's not out there right now. What the Raptors are looking to do right now, they're looking remember 2 or 3 years before the championship when they brought in a Serge Ibaka, when they brought in
Marc Gasol.
No, before that, when they brought in PJ Tucker. I was even going all the way back to the original Kings trade, but that's another story. Yeah. So I think we're looking at guys. It's about extending your window, bringing in players, and that's why I'm worried about moving a first-round pick for an expiring or for a guy who's only here for a year or two. If you're gonna move a first-round pick, move it for a guy who you have team control over. 3 years, rookie scale contract. Now those trades are a little bit harder to put together, and I think that's why we might see kind of a trade that we're not super excited about at the deadline. That's why I brought up the Gary Harris thing. It's a super boring trade, but it's maybe this is all we can get for Dragic. Let's be real. So
that's a fair point.
Yeah, let's be real. We got to get rid of Dragic somehow.
Yeah, and that's really the focus right now is just getting something in here for Dragic without giving up too much else. But I mean, there are some other names out there. Like you mentioned, Poeltl. We could get into Poeltl if you guys want.
I would love to. On that.
What's here's the thing. I want Poeltl as much as anybody else, but what's the trade? Is there a trade?
Yeah, that's the question, Skip. That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
What trade can the Raptors execute? What can Masai and Bobby Webster do to put your Raptors over the hump?
Joel?
Now I'm asking.
Yeah, that's you.
Let's go, Skip. You didn't answer the question.
This is gonna be tough to swallow, but we'd have to attach Doug McDermott to Jakob Poeltl, I think.
Okay.
He seems to be the most expendable on the Spurs roster at that number. He's making 13.7. Jakob's only making 8.7. If we wanted to get rid of Dragic, we would have to attach someone like Precious Achiuwa or Malachi Flynn. Now, does Malachi Flynn have the same value as Precious Achiuwa?
No.
Don't want to see him go.
Do we want to trade a first in a deal for Poeltl?
I think they would give up a first in that trade for sure. For sure.
Okay. So maybe we could do something like a Utah or a Malachi Flynn plus a first with Goran Dragic.
No.
That's still not enough.
And Poeltl.
That's still not enough.
Still not enough?
I think you
Not
need
Utah. Utah.
Maybe Precious plus a first gets it done. But do you really want to pay that price?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
but wait, hold on. Joel, Skip still has not answered the question. Who would you get to get over the hump?
Well, I did. I said there's no trade out there to get over the hump. They're not on the hump. They're behind the hump. They're trying to get to the hump.
Yeah.
What do you mean? They're on the teeter
and you know what?
They're at the 8th seed.
The engine to get over that hump is health, consistency, consistent lineups, maybe some practice time where everyone's on the floor able to get reps in, and just grinding out the season. Just keep playing, because we have 3 bona fide shot makers on this team. We have Pascal, OG, and Fred. Those 3 guys can make a shot at any given possession.
What about Trent?
Trent, he is a flash in a pan. I'm not saying that in a negative way.
He's a scorer. Yeah.
He is oil
on
a hot pan, man. He can, like
Very
last night, 30 plus points like nothing. So he's that X factor. If he's not playing well, the team is lagging. If he's playing well, the team is cruising.
Yeah,
and we showed it last night. We almost took down the top dog in the East.
Yeah, that is correct.
So bottom line, I don't think.
Wait, hold on. I gotta ask you before you get into that. Joel just mentioned about shooting. Would you trade for a shooter? And if so, who would you want?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of trades for shooters. Like Harrison Barnes, I mentioned. Buddy Hield, I mentioned. Even your trade for Poeltl, if you attach Doug buckets, I mean, he is a 3-point shooter. If we really want to scrape the bottom of the barrel, maybe there's a trade there with like an OKC you get Mike Muscala back for Dragic, and probably have to take Derek Favors too. It's a super messy, ugly trade, but maybe if there's no other takers for Dragic at the deadline, you do something like that. I think you absolutely are looking for 3-point shooters, but the reality on Nick Nurse's team is you can bring in as many 3-point shooters as you want, but if they don't play defense, Nurse is not going to play them. Exactly. And that's kind of the thing where that's sort of why Gary Trent Jr. is really important to this team. Because every time I was trying to work him into a trade, I was like, oh, so we're trading Gary Trent Jr. to get another guy who's just going to be Gary Trent Jr. What we need is another Gary Trent Jr. to play beside him. And that's where...
Hey, Gary Trent Jr. is basically a younger Norman Powell. I'll say that. I'll stand to it. You guys don't like it, fight me.
Skip. Yeah, so I mean, it's mostly the guys I've gone into. I mean, there's a few other names out there, like Karis LeVert. We haven't really gotten into him. He's out there. Jeremy Grant on the Pistons, if you want to put together some kind of trade for him. Yeah, so like Jeremy Grant, like, I don't know if there's really a trade out there, and I think he's definitely benefiting from being featured by the Pistons an enormous amount. I think he comes over to
because they got nobody else.
Yeah, I think he comes over to a team like the Raptors, and he's more like a 5th starter, bench microwave guy than this superstar that they're trying to play him up as in Detroit. Could say
homage to Detroit, Vinny the microwave.
Yeah,
Jeremy the frozen dinner, man.
Yeah,
just pop him in. He's quick.
Hungry man.
Well, he's better than that, but I'm saying on a good team, like, what's his role on this team? How many touches does he really get on this team? Right. Versus how much you have to pay to get him, right? I mean, he scores 20 points a night. Like, that's amazing. But the Raptors have 3 or 4 guys that are getting touches. I mean,
The
you do
Raptors
it on
have
the
more
list.
guys that are going to get touches, like you said, and he's not going to be able to score as much.
Yeah,
He's going to be lost in the shadows.
yeah, and based on what Detroit's probably asking for him, I don't necessarily see a trade there. I don't know if you guys disagree.
They're going to ask a lot for him.
They're going to ask a lot. You could go to the Knicks, like if you want just a Derrick Rose or a Kemba. I mean, they'd probably be willing to part with those guys, but they don't really get me excited. Like at this stage of their careers.
Okay, guys, since we're running out of time right now, I want to skip. We haven't done this in a while. We haven't done a rapid fire with just a 1-word answer.
All right.
Okay? So, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw you some names of NBA players out there. And the question is, like in Jeopardy, you don't have to say what is or where they're going to go. Okay? But the question is, where will they end up at the end of the trade deadline? Number 1, starting off, Ben Simmons. Joel, which team?
Atlanta.
Okay.
Atlanta. Not
Atlanta.
Philly? You think he's moving? Oh, wow, that's interesting. All right.
I think he's moving. I think Daryl Morey's going to go. He's going to
All right.
Skip, what's yours? What's your team?
I think he stays in Philly. I mean,
What?
not long term, but at the deadline. They don't seem to have a trade lined up. So
I think he might stay in Philly because they're collecting money off his ass every game he ain't playing. So they're keeping their money. Okay. Now another player, disgruntled man in Houston, John Wall. Where's he gonna go, Joel?
God, who needs a point guard? Boston, Philadelphia.
they can't afford him. Can't afford him.
Philadelphia and the Lakers. So I'm going to go with Lakers.
Okay.
They'll
Skip,
find a
where
way
you
to
think-
get it done.
Skip,
I don't
where you think
think he
John
goes
Wall's gonna
anywhere. I think he stays in Houston and doesn't play.
go? Okay. What about Bradley Beal? We heard some rumors and some little tremors out there. Joel, where do you think he will be at the end of the trade deadline?
He's staying. They
Skip,
got a fringe playoff team.
I hate to be boring, but I think he's staying too. Washington.
okay. Somebody else we spoke about, Jeremy Grant. Is he going to stay in Detroit or not? Joel?
I'm going to say one of the middling playoff teams grabs him, whether it's Utah, Dallas, Denver, or Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philly.
Oh, that's a pretty
One of those
vague
6
answer.
teams. One of those 6 teams, just a playoff team looking for that next bump up. You know what I mean?
Okay. Skip?
I'm gonna, off the top of my head, I'm gonna say Philly, but I agree with Joel in general. Someone grabs it.
Okay. There's also an old guy, almost my age, who is going to be accommodated by his team to be shipped out. Paul Millsap? I don't know. Joel?
Miami.
That's a good
Okay.
guess.
Skip?
I'm gonna say he's cut and signs with the Lakers, but he might just be cut and not sign with anybody.
Okay. There has been some weird things going on in Portland. Where do you guys see Damian Lillard? Because he did say that if they're going to tank, he's going to sit on the bench all season. So where do you guys think he might go at the end of the trade deadline? Do you think he's going to stay or go somewhere else?
Well, this is a tough fire-off question. He just had surgery. He's out for 6 weeks. He probably won't play again until next year, but Boston might go after him. Boston needs a point guard.
You're really going with Boston. Skip hates Boston. Skip.
I do too. Boston's got a new executive. They need to make some moves.
Skip, where do you think he might go?
I think Dame stays, but I think CJ might move actually.
Ooh, that was my next question. Okay.
Yeah.
So you start this off. Where would CJ go?
Oh boy, where is CJ gonna go? Who can take his
Washington!
contract? Who can take his contract? That's a good candidate for the Raptors. We didn't get into that today, but it's going to be someone better than the Raptors. I got to think about this.
Don't take too long.
How about
We
this?
ain't got time.
How about this?
Cleveland. All right. Ricky Rubio. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, CJ to Cleveland. Why not? I'll take that.
Okay, so both you guys agree on that one. Now, I have another player. He's on a rookie contract, but for some reason, he's getting a lot of hate, and he's been hating his team. The one and only, they call him the generational talent, Zion Williamson.
Oh, boy.
Do you think he's going to be there in New Orleans at the end of the trade deadline? Joel?
I don't think he has any choice. He's getting paid so much money to basically do nothing.
Yeah.
Right now, he's getting paid, where is he? 10.7. And he's in his third year?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have a player option. I think it's player option or it's a team option. Probably around $12 million by the end of the 4 years. He's sitting back eating Twinkies, man.
It's a team option on every rookie contract, so.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think they just let him ride it out like, what's his name, from UNLV 10 years ago.
Yeah, because he clearly doesn't want to be there. But, okay.
Yeah.
Skip, where do you think Zion might end up? Or is he going to stay back?
I think he stays at the deadline, but I think it's definitely a situation to watch. I think he might move in the off season or next season or something.
Okay. Very well alluded to, because apparently there's one player that plays for the Brooklyn Nets who is not happy with where he lives, and he's not happy with one of his teammates, the flat earther, James Harden. Okay.
Wow.
Where do you think he will be moved at the deadline? And if so, where? Joel?
There's a few teams that really pay exorbitant prices for players like that, marquee players. God, it's tough to say. Golden State might be a player. They might be willing to pay. Dallas might be willing to pay. Mark Cuban. The Lakers might be willing to pay.
No.
I can't imagine him getting traded in the conference. I'll say.
I don't think he's good. He's not getting traded now. He already came out and said he's gonna test free agency, and the Nets are a contender. He's gonna stick it out the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you just said,
44?
Joel, what you just said about possibly the Lakers, which brings me to my last player that I have to ask you guys, is Le GM, Le Karen, Le Flop, Le Bum, whatever. You guys know I don't like him.
Le PBO.
Okay? Yeah, bring in everybody that's good. Let me create a super team. Russell Westbrook from the Lakers. Where do you think he will end up at the end of the trade deadline? Really quick before we get out of here, guys.
All right, just hot take, 5-second hot take. James Harden for Russell Westbrook, something centered around that. Swap him.
Skip?
I think they try really hard to trade him, but I don't think anyone takes him for anything to pay. Like, I don't think anyone is going to give value for him, and the Lakers need value. So I think he stays put.
I want to give a brown paper bag full of dog shit flaming on fire for him, okay? And yeah, I said that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Westbrook for Simmons would be interesting, but no, Philly would never do that.
Westbrook for John Wall is most likely. But
yeah,
guys, this was some great insight over here, and the three of us will all be back after the trade deadline just to put our foot in our mouth at some point, just to cover what we just said.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, or egg on the face or whatever. Who knows? Okay, but Joel, it's been great. You are our first guest that has ever been outside of Canada. And it was great to have you on, especially you being the biggest Raptors fan south of the border.
Much love, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird for us to say. It's weird for us to say south of the border, and then when you guys say south of the border,
it's a totally different world, man. You can't.
Okay. Well, but thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. This was a great conversation, guys. You know what to do. Go down there, click subscribe, click like. We're still giving this away, brand new, fresh out the box. As soon as we get to 400 subscribers, you guys go down there. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you feel. On behalf of myself, Joel, Skip, and the To The Point family, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
Peace.